Hi there, folks. Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to take a little bit of a detour. Many of the videos I've talked about so far are really from a mental health perspective, how we deal with anxieties by going through the vaccination process, the whole worst case scenarios and the what if questions. And so through these videos, I've been introducing and encouraging us to move into a lot of the uncomfortable spaces in order to begin the rebuilding process and the resiliency building process. And in doing that, have opened the door to perhaps a lot of difficult questions and difficult feelings that go with answering those questions. And so this particular video, I'm going to look at this through the lens of faith. And so if you are religious, if you're faith-based, if you're a Christian like I am, I'm a Jesus follower, then this would be a video for you. Or if you're interested in that, or if you're open to it, this would also be a video for you. I encourage you to watch it. But if it's not your cup of tea and you're not comfortable with that, it's not what you want to hear, it's not what you came here for, that's fine. Definitely just move over to the next video. I wanted to just create something for those of you like myself who have that element and that facet of our lives to really look at from that angle. And so what I want to say here is that much of these conversations that we're having have to do with how we deal with loss, pain, and suffering. And when we talk about those concepts, those issues, it's difficult to talk about those concepts outside the lens of faith and what we believe about God, what we believe about ourselves, what we believe about life here on earth. And so truly from an anchoring standpoint, if the idea here is to begin to delve into some of the deeper parts, that deep end of the pool of what if could happen, we start talking through maybe some of the underlying beliefs of what we think, how God works in our world, what he allows and what he doesn't allow. And so one of the things that's really kind of revelatory for a lot of people in situations like a crisis like this is that God allows a lot more suffering and pain than we maybe originally realized. And that might be new information for you. It might not be new information at all. Maybe you come from a place and an experience in life where you realize that there is a lot of suffering. And I just, going through loss myself, I just know there's a lot of people out there that know that to be true. You can't live this life very long without enduring heartache, painful, deep loss and suffering. And when that happens, you begin to really question, well, how does God operate? How is God good and sovereign through all those things? And so this tests the very foundation of our faith. It requires us to ask questions that are good questions to ask, but we need to find answers to be able to find resolve. And when we can find resolve, when we do get answers, maybe not the answers we want, maybe not the answers that are feel good, but answers, that begins the healing process. That's essentially how resiliency gets built, because now we're more attuned to what truth and reality is in the context of an eternal perspective, a kingdom perspective, if you will. And so this is obviously an enormous topic, and there's plenty of sermons and pastors who talk about this are far better than I am. I'm just going to give you this tool because I want to connect it for you guys. I want to take that bridge from connecting the mental health world with the faith-based world and say, okay, you know what? When we delve into this area, there is an intersect in terms of how we deal with the suffering and the loss that we're going through. And so I'll just simply leave it at this, knowing that we can go a number of different areas with this. Is obviously a deeply theological conversation. But I want to just share with you guys the anchors that have helped me tremendously in terms of being able to maintain peace and hope in this time, and not just this time, but in life in general. I'll go back and refer back to my strongest and most relevant context, which is going through child loss. And I will say it this way, kind of cutting to the chase here. There are two verses that have stood out to me, anchor points, if you will, things that anchor my understanding and gives me a sense of peace and acceptance. I won't say joy, and I won't say that it's something that I find happiness in, but I do find peace in. And so I want to share those verses with you now. The first one comes from John 16. And if you read the entirety of John 16, specifically, Jesus is addressing what is going to happen here for those here he's leaving behind and leaving the Holy Spirit for to minister to. And he says basically, in this life you will suffer. There will be grieving, there will be mourning, there will be tears, there will be pain. And And at that point, it's basically Jesus saying, hey, this is going to hurt. You are left here for a purpose, and you are ambassadors in this life. And it is not going to be easy, but I am here with you. I've left my Holy Spirit here to empower you and to sustain you through that entire period. And so I remind myself of that when I observe that there's loss and suffering, not just in my life, but in the world around me, that, hey, this world is not perfect by any means. It is full of loss and heartache. It's also full of beauty and redemption too, but it has its share of pain and suffering. And I don't ever want to forget that, because that's the reality. That's the truth, right? And so I hold on to that as one part of my anchor. The other point of my anchor is the bookend of that, it's Revelation 21. And so in that one, it speaks to a very similar, in similar fashion, when basically God is saying, like, all things are made new. There are no more tears. There is no more suffering. The old is gone. The new has come. He is the Alpha and the Omega. These bookends of who God is, and a reminder of everything in between. And so, for me, the anchor point that I have for myself, I want to be able to give to any of you out there right now that are really having a hard time with struggling through the reality of loss and suffering in this world, is that we are all in between. Like, we are in between John 16 and Revelation 21. And we have an understanding of what this life is now and a hope of what is to come. But that helps to sustain us. And so those are key anchor points that continually remind us that we are here in this life to be able to be blessed and to be able to find joy in creation and how God designed us to be. But we are also here as ambassadors in a world where it's going to be hard and it's going to be suffering. And we have every resource that would be necessary for us to be sustained in that period of time as well. If you can remember that, and that you are anchored in that every single day, that is a sense of being grounded, to be able to have the ultimate vaccination, so to speak, to ultimately be vaccinated, to be resilient enough to say, you know what, no matter what happens, I can be content in much or in little, as Paul says in the book of Philippians, that there's a certain peace in knowing that, hey, this is my space right now, and I'm content with that. I need nothing, because I have everything that I need for this season of life. So anyways, again, this is obviously a much deeper, theologically profound topic, but I wanted to give you at least the anchor point that resonates for me. You might have your own anchor points. You might have your own verses in there that really are things that help you hold to truth and help remind you of what is good, what is right, what is true. I recommend that you find those things and you hold on to them tightly. If you don't have those, you can use mine, whatever it is that you would need in this period of time to help anchor you and to help build that resilience that you're going to need to be able to make it through not just this season of life where a lot of pain points might be revealed, but through life for the duration, for the remainder of your life, because this is not going to be the last time that you're going to have to go through some type of suffering. It is part of life, right? So I hope that helps. And again, this video is for those of you who would appreciate and need that type of angle and that kind of perspective. And again, if that's not your cup of tea, if you're not a Christian or a faith-based kind of a thinker, I hope that makes sense to you, and I hope that, if anything, encourages you to understand that for a lot of us who we lean on our faith in these kinds of times, and that's how we derive our strength. So hope that helps, and hope to see you guys in another video. Thank you.